Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking about if you should or shouldn't read The Wheel of Time. Like I said, you're thinking about reading The Wheel of Time and that is such a huge commitment. I'm surprised, I'm shocked. If you know nothing about The Wheel of Time, it is a 14-book series that is written by Robert Jordan, who unfortunately passed away before he was able to finish it, and the series is now finished by Brandon Sanderson. Today I'm just going to kind of list a few pros and cons of the series and my experience with the series. This is going to be a completely non-spoilery video for you guys. I want to make sure that before you kind of jump into the commitment of The Wheel of Time, that you're at least prepared, you know kind of what to expect going in. I wish that I would have watched more videos like this before kind of jumping right in and just like not really having any idea. But again, it's going to be spoiler free. No worries, you can watch it if you haven't read it, or if you have read it, then you'll probably know what I'm talking about for most of these points. Pro number one is going to be that it's a slower start and introduction to the world. While you may be new to the fantasy genre, don't feel intimidated like this is going to be some Brandon Sanderson like vast magic system. You're going to be confused half the time. It's not that at all. It's very, very found family. You're following really generally five main characters, and you're not going to get lost. You're not going to feel overwhelmed with like the size of the world or the vastness of the world. It feels very like you're at home and you don't really have to worry about being overwhelmed again. And I think that's especially important in it being a 14-book series, because just the size alone of the series can feel the most overwhelming. And therefore, when you kind of get a slower start and you're a little bit more familiar with the characters and the world and the lore, it doesn't feel as daunting to kind of continue on, especially because you know that there's nothing that's really going to throw you for a loop. There's nothing that's crazy. You're not going to not understand anything that's going on. For my first con, I don't think it's surprising. It's 14 books, dude. It's a long series. It can feel very daunting and very intimidating, and I don't blame you in the slightest. I was like very overwhelmed. I felt I don't know, like halfway through I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I'm so far, I've read so many books, and then I'd be like, yeah, and then I have to read all of this again just to finish it. So it can feel just a little bit daunting, especially when you're trying to pick up something new, something you haven't experienced before. But honestly, most of the books flew by for me. Highly recommend the audiobooks by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. They saved my life. I listened to every single book. I didn't read a single one. They were phenomenal. Highly recommend. That's how I got through The Wheel of Time. My second pro has to be Robert Jordan's character work. In my opinion, his plot kind of meanders, which I'll get to in a minute, but his character work is some of the best character work. By the start to finish, I felt like I knew these people. I knew what they would do. I knew their decisions. I never felt like anyone acted out of character at any point ever. You just start to grow and love these characters like they're your friends, like they're your family, like you care so much about them. And I feel like you kind of, I don't know, you get a really good sense of like, in some ways you have characters that you really dislike, and then you have characters that you're like, meh, in the middle, and then you have characters that you love. And for every single person, I think that's going to be different. In my opinion, at the beginning of the series, I really disliked a certain character. And as the series progressed, I actually started looking forward to this character's chapters even more so than like Rand, our main character. And I was really shocked, really surprised at myself. Again, I felt like I was kind of growing with these characters in a weird way. Like, I know that's kind of silly to say, but in my opinion, it was phenomenal. Con number two, kind of pulling from pro number two, is that there is a ton of characters and people to follow. I think by the end of the series, there is something like 2,500 named people in the entire series, which is just astronomical. Like, now, don't freak out, don't panic. You do not have to follow 2,500 individual people. You're really mainly following probably a group of, I don't know, I'd say anywhere from like 20 to 50 people, and even that's quite a bit of a stretch. it can feel just quite daunting to know that you're going to ultimately end up following that many people. But again, with a pro, it's a very slow introduction. You're kind of slowly introduced to your main group of people, and then you're adding on people to that group over and over and over. And so you're never like, who is this person? Like, why do I care about this person? In my opinion, it is a little bit harder when you are listening to the book, because for me, I had to conjure up a picture of every single person. Thankfully, he kind of describes them every time they're talked about, especially like in a new setting. He kind of uses the same descriptions for some people, so then it becomes even harder. So again, that's kind of why it's in the con category. Pro number 3 is kind of a simple one. Might ruffle some feathers here, but the series just finished. It's kind of a dig on Patrick Rothfuss there, but or George Martin. In my opinion, I am super glad that it's finished. I am really sad, obviously, that Robert Jordan didn't get to finish it. In my personal opinion, Brandon Sanderson did a phenomenal job. It's not really just because I'm a fan of Sanderson. I tried to take a step back and like really evaluate if I appreciated his writing or not, and I was blown away. If I had not known that Robert Jordan passed away, I would just think that Robert Jordan became a slightly more succinct writer, a little bit less meandering. That's how excellent of a writer. He just kind of took over the tone and style and voice of Robert Jordan so well. I was really impressed. Like, I genuinely really wouldn't have known that he took over if I wasn't told that. Con number 3 is the pacing. There is kind of 2 separate things in this, subcategories if you will, the pacing of this series and the pacing of each book. The pacing for the entire series was a little bit, better for me than the pacing per book. Per book, the pacing is really frustrating. It starts off decently fast-paced, and then the middle of the book oftentimes is just meander. It's just wander around. Where are we? What are we doing? What's the plan? I don't know. What do you think we should do? And then the last 200 pages of every single book is where everything that matters happens. And so it can be a little bit frustrating, at least in my opinion, to get to these huge, massive books that are, 800, 900 pages, and then it be like, well, really all that mattered was the last 300, 200 pages. Okay, great. Now, to kind of counteract that, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't have it any other way. You get to just experience life with these characters on a deep level. You just get to kind of, again, I think it speaks to Robert Jordan's character work. He kind of puts you in that setting with them, and you kind of feel like you're figuring out the problems with the characters, and you have to find a solution. And oftentimes you're rooting for them. You're trying to figure out what they should do. What would you do in that situation? So in some ways, I get it, but it can be really meandering, especially per book. Now, the series pacing, in my opinion, most people say that there is a slog, and I really didn't actually experience a slog. I ended up buying a house in the middle of all of my Wheel of Time journey, and so books 8, 9, and 10 for me, which ironically are the smallest books, I had the toughest time finishing, actually. And in my opinion, those are the books that were just really tough for me, and that really nothing happened to move the plot along. Again, you can feel free to disagree with me. But then at the end, when Sanderson picks it up, I felt like he was kind of rushed in that he had to finish the series in a certain amount of time, in a certain amount of books. And so there is just so much packed into the last 3 books that it's kind of like, whoa, if Robert Jordan had written this would have taken another 6 books to write. That's it for today's video. I kind of just wanted to talk about the pros and cons of the Wheel of Time. If you're interested in it, if you've started it, and you're just kind of like, where the heck is this going? I don't know. Again, this is non-spoiler, so I wanted to be able to include everyone who is thinking about it, who has read it, who hasn't read it, who's getting into it. I felt like that would be the best choice. I am going to be doing a spoiler discussion. I'm super excited. I have a lot of opinions that are probably not popular. but you know what? You'll have to come back for that video. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please let me know by like leaving a wheel emoji maybe. Let me know if you agree with my thoughts on my pros and cons. If you disagree, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whatever floats your boat, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!